I work in applied AI for Fortune 500 companies. This is part 2 of the series, Built for SEO, Not GEO, Rethinking Content Systems in the AI Era. So the focus is no longer what am I saying on the page, but it's what am I saying on this topic across all parts of my site, across social, across everything that I can control. It has to be consistent because that means that it's coherent, clear, and then trustworthy. So if you have a very content-heavy brand, or the content that your brand creates is very volatile, meaning it changes all the time, and if it has to be precise, so I'm thinking like highly regulated spaces like pharma, financial services, etc., where it's always changing, but it has to be right, then you have a unique challenge because managing all of that consistently is kind of a nightmare. And I've seen this pattern enough that I just want to share. And the problem is fragmentation. These organizations are so big and they're so siloed that their operating structure just doesn't support consistency or velocity. And in the traditional SEO world, fragmentation, still sucks. Like it creates duplicate work, it is inefficient, but it also still kind of worked. Like you can be fragmented, but still have enough strong ranking pages and enough traffic that the inefficiencies were survivable and didn't hurt enough for you to have to change. But in a GEO world, this fragmentation becomes a big risk because the AI is synthesizing across all services. And so that inconsistency can really hurt you from showing up. If you're saying different things across the ecosystem, or if one part of your site is updated, but other parts of it are stale, that's going to look like it's inconsistent, therefore not trustworthy, not getting cited. To really paint a picture of what I'm seeing in enterprises, say, for example, you work for an HR payroll software company, and then the federal minimum wage changes. What they're going to have to do is go and search through all of their content where that wage number is mentioned, and then separately update all of those pages, have it legally reviewed separately, and then each page has to be re-implemented on the site. And sometimes this can be like hundreds of pages and takes a ton of time and is very, very expensive. It's time consuming, hard to scale, but now it's bad for GEO. If it's taking you that long to make updates, you're not saying the same thing across your site. You're hurting your authority to be cited by AI. So you have to change your operating model from managing pages to managing knowledge. And this future state is entity-based knowledge management, and where there's just one source of truth to maintain and update. And I will show you what I mean. But before I show you how you can update once and propagate everywhere, there is a big distinction that we have to make, and that's separating the knowledge layer from the content layer. Most of us are used to thinking about content through a publishing tool. So like WordPress or a CMS, and you create it, and then it goes on the site. The knowledge and then the presentation of the content are fused together. For GEO and really any type of scalable content operations, those two things need to separate. This represents those two layers being separated. So you have your knowledge layer on top and then the content layer below. And in the knowledge layer is where all of the entities live. And think of entities as like folders in a filing cabinet. So one of those folders could be the federal minimum wage. And then there's certain attributes about that. So like current rate, effective date, prior, all these little dimensions of that. So I think of those as like little papers within that folder. Well, what's nice is that when you have this setup is you can just change one of those papers in that folder. So let's say the current rate is 725, now it's 8. Instead of having to hunt down and updating that individually on every page, you can then just update it here once, also have it compliance reviewed here once, and then that change propagates into every spot that it exists. And this is all done via API, so all these little spots, you have all these little attributes, it's just code that's connected. And this makes it possible to clarify and strengthen those signals to AI because you're managing the knowledge in just one place versus having to constantly play catch up across your site and your experiences. One way to enable this is a composable CMS, but the principle is much more important than the tool. You need to separate the governed knowledge from the place that the governed knowledge is being displayed.